Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be continuing the JWT Auth series, and we're going to be working on the front end today. So in order to make things a lot faster, I went ahead and built out the front end part, but all you're going to be needing is Tailwind CSS and React Router DOM to create basically the boilerplate input form here. So it's going to be a post request. So you're going to be using Axios. So you're going to install Axios also, and you're going to be using it as a post. We're going to work with Axios here, but the CSS and the input form has been built out for navbar for the navbar. So as you can see here, it's built out. Register page. So if I click register here, you're going to see it comes right to register. If I say content, it's going to come right to the content page. So if I go to /content, it's in the content section, and login that we already saw earlier. So login is this. So in app.js, we routed all that. So we're going to be using React Router DOM, and we routed all of it. So for just our, if we just said backslash, our home is going to be the login page, and then it's going to be the content page /content and the register. So the way I set this up is, if you this is the main page, it sends you to a login. If you don't have a login, you hit register. Once you put the register in, we're supposed and hit register, we should be told that we're all set, we're all registered, and we will be directed back to the home page to log in. So we're going to be putting all that logic in. So let's just get started. Another thing we're going to be doing is using React context, and that's used to transfer state globally within the application, the front end part of the application, or wherever you need it to be transferred in the front end part of the application, of course. So let's get started. So right now we're just going to put the functionality, the logic for the register in there, and we already have these. Within it, I've already put the on change. So all we have to do is now submit this form. And how we can go about that is say handle const handle submit. We're going to use the arrow function. So say e sync. Cool. And we're going to say e.prevent default. Cool. And we're going to say set username. We're going to set username to an empty string. Set password to an empty string, and set email to an empty string. And that's because whenever we finish up, whenever we submit this form, we want, whether or not it goes through, we want this form to be emptied out. We want just this exact thing showing. So that's what, and then at the inside the form, inside the input, we put the value to username, the value to password, and the value to email. So whatever that value is would be here. And since we're setting it after we hit register to an empty value, it's going to show up as empty here. Okay, and now we have handle submit. We can come down here and say const response is equal to, actually, let's say const register is equal to await axios dot post, and we're going to be posting to http localhost 5001 /auth /register. And it's going to, we're going to be passing the username, password, and email. Actually, let's take this out and put it within a try catch. There we go. Just plug this in there. Cool. And then await that post, username, password, email. Okay, so what's the problem now? Build, await. Oh, I don't know why. So this is supposed to be within handle submit. Cool. So now we just have to import Axios. I already installed it, so now you guys need to install it. So import Axios from Axios. Cool. So that's done. And this is our handle submit. So within our MongoDB, I've cleared out the database, so there's nothing within it. So now let's see if this works. So all we have to do now, since I have all this set up, is say on submit and just put handle submit. So we have a history of things not working out the first time. So let's just make sure everything works. Everything's set up correctly. Await Axios.post 5001. The database is started. If we save this, everything compiled correctly. So let's see. Inspect this page, network, and let's see. So we're going to say test, test, test. Up at test.com. Register. And it is successful. So if we refresh this page, okay, our front end is connected. So what we can also do is come here and say required, required, and required. Cool. So now, if we, let's say we put T, this, because we set this type to email, it's not going to let us do that. So let's say test at test.com, and let's leave one out. It's going to say, please fill out this field. So it's going to make sure everything we do is required before it gets passed along. So here, if there's an error, let's say alert invalid credentials. And if it goes through here, let's alert. So let's navigate first of all. So import use navigate. And then down here, we want to say const navigate is equal to use navigate. Cool. And we want to come down to here and say navigate is, and we're navigating to the login page. So let's delete this. Cool. And we're gonna try that again. So now let's say test at test.com. So it went through, and now we're in the login page. Let's see. Cool. And we have it again. So we're properly done with that. So we can close our register page. Now for a login, I did the same thing here. So let's say const handle submit. It's just going to be the same process. Async e. We're going to say try catch. It's going to be await Axios dot post, and this time we only need the username and a password. So that's those only two requirements we need to log in. We're going to say local HTTP localhost 5000 slash auth slash login. And we're just passing in the username and we're passing in the password. Cool. And if there's an error, you can always alert credentials invalid. And this error is not going to be, in terms of, we're just putting this there just to have something rather than just console logging it. So we can also console log it. So let's do that, the error. And then let's come back to register and do the same thing. So we can always console log the error, but just so it looks, so there's a bit more error handling going on, we can just do that. So if you were going to put this in production, of course, whatever error, you're going to have to account for different types of errors that can occur. But right now, we're just going to put the boilerplate credentials invalid. But within the server response, it's going to tell you actually what the problem is. So let's see. So we have that. Now we can just come in here again. Let's make sure, oh, it's going to be 5001. Let's come in here and say on submit, and we're going to make this handle submit. And save that, everything compiled correctly. So let's do the same thing here and just say required. Required. Yeah, those are the only two things we got to require. Cool. So if I come back here, if I log in, where is it? So this time, if I log in, let's import use navigate. Cool. Same thing here. Const navigate is equal to use navigate. And now if I log in here and say navigate, we're navigating over to content. Is it content? Yeah, content. The content route. So let's see if this works. So we have test, login. Ooh, something wrong. Let's see. Inspect. What went wrong? Test. Did we spell something wrong? Because it doesn't even look like it's going through. Handle submit. Handle submit. Handle submit. 5001 slash auth login. So something's going on somewhere. So let's close this out. So where are we going wrong here? Button, set password, set username, and submit. Oh, all right. So E now prevents. We didn't finish up what we were doing. Prevent default. Cool. And now we can just put set username, set password. So we kind of went ahead of ourselves. And now we can have that. So let's see, test. And there we go. So now it takes us right to the content page. So this works. And then now we're going to be working. So our nav bar is just basically this bar and CSS. So there's nothing in there at this moment. So let's say right now, let's just put link to, just for right now, link to this, and it's going to be login. So let's just do that for right now. And then we can close that out. So right now, what we want to do is create that folder called context. And within context, we're going to have auth context.js. And here we want to say import create context from React and import the constant context. And that's going to equal to create context and an object. What happened? Oh, it's going to be export. Sorry, export const. Yep, so we're exporting this out. And that's all we're going to do for that. So that's the easy part. So now we're going to come back to app.js. And the reason we're doing this, which you'll see in a second. So let's just do this. Const. We want to now get this user. So we want to get whoever signed in. We want to get their information, the user information, so we can know who it correct. So that person can know. All right, I'm logged in. This is my page. Everything on there would be, it's their information. Anything within the cookie would be populated, can be used to populate their specific screen. So let's see, const user, set user, and then use state, sorry. And this is going to be a string. And now we also want a logout button, which we'll see how to create later on. So we want logout functionality, use state, and yeah, just an object. Cool. Now we want to come down here right below div, and we want to say context dot pro. Okay, let's do this first. Let's import that. So import context from context slash auth context. Cool. So now we come here and say context dot provider, and let's take this and put it right below here. That should work. Oh, provider with a capital P. There we go. So provider with a capital P. And now we want to say value. These are the values we want to pass throughout this whole, basically everything that it covers. So within all this different components and routes, we want these values to be passed through them. So use state logout and set logout. Cool. Compiled correctly. Now we can go to context and say, let's come down here, and now we can say const user set user is equal to use context, which will auto import here, and we want that context which auto imports here. So use user and set user will be coming from these values. So we're basically getting from them. And as you can see, this is not in parentheses; it's in the object notation. So it's in bracket. So we can keep going. Now we can say, let's come up here and say const. All right, let's actually let's do use effect first. So use effect, let's import that. And the reason we're doing use effect is because once you load up the screen, so let's say you log in here, once you go right to that screen and it boots up, you want to run the function that's gonna say hello whoever that is and populate whatever pertains to that person's information. So if they have a specific image that corresponds to that person that's saved on via cookies or whatever logic, whatever code you've already coded up, you want it to boot up once you go to that page. So we're going to say use effect and do that. And now let's just leave that as such for right now. Now we want to say fetch const fetch data is equal to async, because it's going to be, we're going to be using Axios await. So we're going to be awaiting a response. So let's put try catch, and let's say const response is equal to await axios.get. So axios auto imports here, and we're doing .get because if we come over to the server, remember when we go to routes, when we want to get the user info, we have to get when we want to the path to get the user info is within /context. So that's how we get the user info. But remember this wall there is the token verification. So everything within it is still /context. So we're going to be getting HTTP localhost 5001 /auth /content. Is it content? Context slash content. So it'll be /content. Save that. Oh, and now, before I forget, let's wrap this. We're going to be using this with credentials, and we're going to say it's true. And I'll show you something I implemented in the back end off camera earlier. So with context true, and then at the top here, you want to say axios.defaults.with credentials, and you want to set this also to true. Awesome. And the reason being is because on the client side, by default, you cannot request cookies. So by default, you don't get the cookies on the client side via like default. So if it by default, you can't get the cookies on a client from a client side request. You cannot get the cookies. However, if you say with credentials, you're telling it to be passed with the cookies. So you want the cookies with this request. So that's what these are doing. So now if you go to the backend, I believe I did that earlier off camera. So yeah, so if you come to app.use cores, credentials within cores within an object, within the parentheses brackets should be credentials are true, and then the origin. Let's just put this away. So credentials are true, and the origin is whatever server that the front end is on. So ours is on localhost 3000. So our local server for the front end is localhost 3000, and that will permit the credentials to be shared within this host, within this origin. So now that we have that, we should be good. And so now with this state function, use context, we can now say set user, and then set that user to response.data.user. Actually, let's say response.data first, and then I'll show you why we're saying .user later on. And if there's an error, we can console log it like usual. But also, we want to say navigate. So, gotta do the thing again. Import use navigate. Yeah, I hate it when it doesn't auto import. So import use navigate from React router DOM. Cool. So now we can come down here and say const navigate is equal to use navigate, and correct. And here we can say navigate to the login. So if we're unable to get access to the content page, we have to go back to the login because something was wrong. So we can also alert wrong credentials, and we're just putting this as boilerplate error handling at this point. So not all errors will be because of wrong credentials at this point. It's kind of like you have to test it to see what the different errors could be. And then, but right now we're just going to slap on wrong credentials. And here, so let's also console log that. So console log, let's actually do it in here. Let's say console.log user. So hopefully everything works. Oh yeah, and then fetch data. So hopefully everything works at once. That would be awesome. All right, let's see. So let's inspect this. And go to network, test. Was it test? Test one. Awesome, it worked. So now we're on the content page. So that worked. So as you can see, it's given us. So this is why. So we're the data that's coming from this response is called user. So now what we want to say is dot user. And when we save that, as you can see, our email, username, the date it was created, updated, it's all there, along with our ID. Now we can say user dot. So let's say if there's a user, then we want to say welcome, and we want to welcome the user, which is going to be user dot username. And if there's not, it's just false. What am I doing wrong now? So if there is user.username, there's not false. Yeah, it shouldn't be there. It should be here. There we go. Username, welcome, and let's take this out and set it with set user, and it'll be response dot data dot user. Cool. So as you can see, it says welcome test. There we go. So it says welcome test. So now if we try to go back to /content, as you can see, you're still logged in. So it says welcome test. So how do we log out? Well, that's why we got this set user. That's why we got this context.provider. That's why we're using React context, because now we want to be able to pass this user throughout every single path. So if I come back to the nav bar, right, because typically you log out via the nav bar. So if I come to the nav bar, I can say, where's my nav bar? I can come here, and since we have login, I can write a logic that says, first of all, we got to import, what's it called? Import the user. So user set user, and import it and say use context. All right. So if there's a user, let's put this between this, and let's say if there's a user, then we want a button. Yeah, that shouldn't be there. So we want a button for logout. Yep, logout. But if there's not, we want to say this. Oh yeah, we gotta, let's just do this. We gotta import all that. and link is already done. So as you can see, we're logged in, but we're still logged in. So if I said console.log user, we're still logged in. So as you can see, there's still a user present. So now we can come back to the backend and write a function for logout. So let's come to routes, and this would be auth route.get/logout, and just leave that there, and then go to controller, and right below this we want to say exports.logout is equal to the sync request res. We want to say res.clear cookie, and the name of the cookie, we want to clear the token because that's what we named it. Actually, let's put this in a try catch. There we go. And we want to say, basically, if it's successful, res.status 200.json. We want to say it's status or message is logout successful. This should be closed. Cool. And then for error, just console.log error. All right. So now we want to get this exports.logout. So all we're saying is if we want to log out, we want to clear the cookie. So we want to clear the cookie token, and send a status of 200 if it's done with the message of logout successful. And if there's an error, just console log the error. So we call this what? Logout. And then we just want to do this. And we're all done. So that's the only backend part we're going to be needing. And so we're done with this for right now. And let's come back here. So now for logout in the nav bar, we already know what that does, so let's not worry about that. So now let's just say const. We're going to be using use effect again, so because you want it done once you click the button. And then dependency array. Cool. And now you want to do the same thing. Const fetch data is equal to sync. And here it's going to say try catch await Axios. I don't know why I'm drawing blanks here. Dot get HTTP local host 5001 /auth /logout, and it's going to be with credentials being true, and cool, and console.log error. Am I forgetting anything? And then if we just put this here, fetch data. So for this button of logout, we can just say on click and say fetch data. Cool. Let's just see if everything is working so far. All right, so if we come here and I hit, let's go to network, let's close all this out. If I hit logout, our message is successful. So if I went to /content, we're logged out. So as you can see, there's no welcome whoever, like we're logged out. So now there's a login. So we're technically logged out. However, if you, there would still be a user intact technically. So because if I log in now and I say test, and I log in, welcome test. If I log out, I'm logged out, but give me 1 second. Let's route to, that's something we forgot to do. Const navigate is equal to use navigate, and we just want to send navigate to home to login. Awesome. So now that I hit logout, we come back to the login, and if I go back to content, as you can see, it just sends me back to, it sends me back to login because I'm not authorized to access this route. So now if I hit login and I say test, and I log in, if I log out, technically I'm logged out, but because I'm still within that page, the page didn't refresh, it's still saying I'm logged in. But if I go to content, I'm not going to be allowed. It's a little tricky to think about if you're not following along. So if I sign out, there's no cookies there, but technically the user is still intact because the user, remember we're said if there's a user, then say log out. So that's how we know the user's still within the system, is still saved in the system. So log out. So what we can say is, uh, where is it? So now we can say set user would be null. So now whenever we run this logout, not only are we clearing the cookie, but the user is now null. There's no user. So since that ran, let's do this again. Test, login. As you can see, it shows login in context. If I log out, I'm completely out the system. So it's, if I try to go to content, it's not gonna, it's not gonna do anything. So it's just gonna give me an error. So that's pretty much how you do that. So let's start from the beginning and see if our code works smoothly. Let's say username test1, test1, test1 at test.com. So it's test1, test1 at test.com. We register, and as you can see, we're registered. So let's see if it works. Test1. So we don't need MongoDB to see if it worked. Let's just look at what the payload was. It was test1. And now if I log in again, it says welcome test1. If I log out and try and go back to content, I am no longer in the system. So that, in a nutshell, is how you handle authorization and authentication. I didn't go over the CSS with you guys, but I feel like that's something a lot of people just want me to skip past. And if you did want to see the CSS portion of it, you can always I can just make a standalone input form so that you can see it. But for the most part, this is the whole project. So if you guys enjoyed it, it would really mean a lot if you subscribed and like the video, and let me know where your comments is at the bottom of the page. Helped out. Have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you on the next video. Peace.